To avoid the dreaded, oh no, I forgot to charge the battery, I added a 12-volt power system to my Bonafide fishing kayak. Now I can power my cameras and electronics all day long, and it's all tucked up inside the boat nice and tidy. Stick around and I'll show you how I did it. So I added 4 USB chargers, one to each corner of the boat, and each charger has 2 USB-A ports, so I got plenty of places to plug in if I need to. For the wiring inside the kayak, I twisted it and sleeved it so it won't get tangled up so bad in whatever rods or whatever I'm storing inside the hull. And to quickly disconnect the battery from the rest of the boat, I used SAE connectors, so I can just pop those right off and then the whole thing comes out. And I can also charge the battery up without having to use alligator clips that way. I can just plug the SAE connector from the charger right into the battery, and I don't even have to open up the dry pod. And now the whole thing will be prepped for a fish finder if I ever decide to go that route. For parts for my build, I used the 4 USB chargers. They're just the garden variety. They're not quick chargers. I did that because I just need a steady charge throughout the day, and I wanted to avoid any potential compatibility issues that the quick chargers might have with my electronics. And then I used 14 gauge wire. I bought marine grade, so it's stranded copper wire that's tinned for marine applications, so the tinning helps it not get corroded in wet environments. I got a fuse block that ties everything together. It uses blade fuses like they have in cars. And I got this 1/4 inch braided sleeving that kind of ties everything together and gives it a nice appearance, and then protects the wires a little bit and keeps them from getting tangled up and stuff. Heat shrink tubing in various sizes, some stainless steel bolts and nuts and washers, just little stuff like that. A voltmeter, the SAE sockets, and then some SAE extensions to connect those 2 sockets together, and a plain old lead acid battery, a 12-volt lead acid battery. It's just a 7 amp hour. For tools, you know, the standard stuff, a drill, screwdriver, wire strippers. There are some specialty tools that help. One of them's a step bit. It's this kind of cone-shaped bit, and it makes really nice, round, smooth holes in plastic boats. One trick with the step bit, don't press too hard, or they have a tendency to bite real fast, and they can surprise you and wind up making a bigger hole than you intended. So. And then a fish tape is handy as well, pulling wires through different holes, you know, and around corners and stuff like that. And then last but not least, a ratcheting crimper I like to get nice consistent crimps. I'll drop a list of the parts and the tools in the description of the video. So that's the background. Let's get started with how I put it all together. I started by prepping the wiring. I made twisted pairs out of the positive and negative wires. And once I had the wires twisted together, I could just slide that jacket onto the twisted pairs and then pulled it down, cut it off, and I used heat shrink tubing on the ends to seal it up and hold it in place, and gives it a nice finish. A quick way to twist wires together is to use a drill, and you just stick the 2 wires into the chuck of the drill, and then tie the other end to something sturdy, and then just turn the drill on and go to town and twist away. I went ahead and crimped the ends on while I had the wire outside the boat, so it was just easier to get to. And so here's one of the shorter pairs that I made. Then I did that 3 more times, 2 for the longer pairs going to the back and 1 for the other short pair going to the front. And then it was off to drilling the big holes in the back for the chargers back there. I started in the back of the boat back here in the live well, and then I had to pop this access cover off, and then I had to locate the chargers a little farther back, about a foot farther back than I wanted to. I wanted them up by the back of the seat, but I needed to be able to reach the back of the charger so I could put the nuts on the bolts and the nut on the back of the chargers themselves. And so I had to be able to reach through this access hole. And so they're about, you know, halfway back in the live well. It looks okay. It's not the end of the world. For the chargers, I needed to make 2 1 1/16 inch holes back here, and then 2 more up front for the chargers up there. You know, so pretty good size holes, about the size of a quarter or a little bigger than that. It's the old measure twice and cut once. So it took me a while to get everything lined up and leveled out and marked. And then I punched those with a little drill set. And then drilled a pilot hole so the step bit wouldn't slip out of the way and it would track nice and easy. After I got the pilot holes drilled, then it was off to making the big jump and making big holes in the boat. And you can see where it just makes nice smooth curls and a nice smooth hole. And it turned out just fine, nice and round and just the right size. No rough edges or anything, it's just smooth as can be. So I needed to go on and drill the other 3 holes, the one back here and the 2 up front, and then it was off to pulling the wire back to the back of the boat here. I used the fish tape to pull the wire back in the back. I fished it through the hole here in this charger hole, and then just fed the fish tape up to the front, hooked it up to the wiring pair with the little hook it's got built in there, which is smooth so it won't cut the wire. And it was an easy pull, really wasn't pulling around anything tough, so it just pulled right back there. Okay, they came right through, so pulling them out the hole here, and then I'll be able to put the face plates on and connect the terminals to the charger. Alright, I got them connected up here, and now I'm going to put the faceplate on and the nut on the back, and then we'll finish up these 2 chargers back here. I did put stainless steel bolts on the mounting plates here, and I put some silicone around the base of the chargers and also around the bolts. On kayaks, I prefer bolts to screws. I don't know, maybe I'm paranoid, but I worry about things getting ripped out and the screw not being able to hold in there well enough in the plastic, so I always put bolts on everything. Probably overkill, but it's just me. Okay, so I went ahead and installed the charger on the other side and got those all set and plugged in, and then it was off to putting the fuse block in. For the fuse block and the wiring going into that, I just got the spade connectors and just screwed those down super easy, and then screwed the battery terminals on there and got the fuses put in, and then I put some Velcro on the big block of Velcro on the fuse block so I can pull it off pretty easy, but it'll keep it off the bottom of the boat, but I can pull it off there if I need to change a fuse or add a wire or whatever I need to do. I splurged a little bit on this fuse block. It's a Blue Sea Systems block, and it was 32 bucks, and I think that was even on sale. I mean, you can get them for 15 bucks or so, but I was a little paranoid about stripping out a screw or something, so I just went long and bought more than probably I should have. This is a solid block, though. It's very well put together. It's just well constructed. Very solid little piece of equipment. Once I had the wiring all screwed down to the fuse block, then the last thing I needed to really do was do the dry pod and the battery and the SAE sockets. For the battery, I used the Bonafide's dry pod, which is made for a 12-volt battery and really ultimately a fish finder. So the slot, they made it fit a 12-volt battery exactly down here in the bottom so it doesn't flop around. But I wanted it to be extra secure, so I glued some Velcro straps to the bottom of the dry pod, and then I can just cinch it down and it doesn't budge that way. So I wanted a way to quickly disconnect the battery from the electrical wiring in the boat, and then be able to just take off with the dry pod if I wanted to, or pull it out of the boat at any time if I wanted to do that. So I used these SAE sockets and then a little SAE connector to connect them together. And the sockets were mounted in rubber, which was warped. And I tried to straighten it out. I drilled out a wood block and screwed it down, and then used a heat gun, but it didn't stay. It was still kind of warpy, so I just used some silicone to fill in the parts where it rose up. I think it turned out just fine. It looks okay. I mean, you don't really notice it. I don't think it's all black, so it just seems to blend in okay. I had hoped to run the SAE cord out of the front of the dry pod box here, but there just isn't enough room between the front of the kayak and this little slot for that SAE connector to get in there. So I had to put it on top of the dry pod box. You know, it's going to be a little cozy if I put a fish finder on here, but I put it back as far as I could, so hopefully I should have enough room. I measured it out like for a block to mount the fish finder on. I measured that out and it looks like it'll clear it okay. I had to drill 3 more big holes for the SAE sockets and for the voltmeter, 2 in the dry pod and then 1 on the kayak itself to get the sockets in there and the voltmeter. So, but once that was done, it was really pretty straightforward. Once the hole was drilled for the voltmeter, that was pretty easy. It just has a nut on the back, so that just went right in. And then I took all the wiring inside the dry pod and I put it in that braided sleeving and then pinned everything or tucked everything up to the box, the lid of the dry pod box. And I think it came out pretty slick. It looks pretty nice, I think. So once I got the voltmeter set and all the wiring arranged, then it was really time to plug it into the rest of the wiring system and see if everything worked and see if I could get a charge going to a camera or something. So went ahead and plugged my little extension cable I made into the SAE socket on the top of the dry pod, and then I plugged it into the kayak over in the socket there. And then you can see from the chargers here that they turn blue. They lit up blue so that I know I'm getting power to them. I went ahead and hooked up a camera to the USB charger and then waited a minute there. So it was at 86% and then just waited a minute and then went up to 87%. So it was getting a charge. So I think everything should be good to go. Later on, I let them charge overnight and it did just fine. It charged a couple cameras and a little battery charger up, no problem. So everything worked fine. So overall, I'm just tickled with the way it turned out. It all just has everything nice and tidy. The chargers look nice and clean and professional. My dry pod turned out really slick. I think it looks real nice in there. It's a big improvement over what I had before, which was having USB cords laying over the deck of the boat, and I had a external battery clamped to the seat, and you know, so I always had the wiring kind of strung around my feet and all that stuff. You can do this for less than 150 bucks. Most of the stuff's available on Amazon. Again, I'll link that down in the description. There are a few upgrades you might consider that would take the price up, obviously, but you can do it for less than 150 pretty easy if you want. I did spring for a new battery charger. I have an old one, but if I ever go to a lithium battery, you know, I'll need one of those smart chargers. So I got this Schumacher 3 amp little charger. It's real nice. It's real simple, but just real nice little charger for 50 bucks. There you have it. There's my build. It just turned out better than I thought it would. And I now have power to my electronic stuff all day. So I'm happy about that. I am planning to do more videos like this. So if you want, go ahead and subscribe and you can see what I'm up to. And other than that, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch me put this thing together. And please send me any comments that you might have or any requests you might have. I'd be glad to address those. And other than that, take care of yourself.